Okay, so coming back to our slides here, I'm now going to move on to my next slide, and this is the Contact Us follow-up funnel. On every website, you should have a Contact Us page. You should make it really easy, really easy for people to get in contact with you. It's where the kind of the marketplace happens on your website. So people come to you with pre-sales questions. They come to you and be asking a question about your course. They maybe want to find out a little bit more about pricing. Can they buy multiple licenses, etc. And if you don't make it easy for someone to contact you, you're going to lose quite a lot of sales. So what we're going to do is build a funnel that allows students to contact you easily and also automatically follows up with them. It takes about 15 to 30 minutes to set this up. 25% of people who get into these funnels will take further action. And it also has the benefit of reducing support time. Part of my company, we build B2B SaaS products, and a lot of it is concentrated around support. So helping users open tickets and get support. The most powerful part of this funnel I'll show you in just a moment is the FAQ follow-up. So I always recommend starting an FAQ from day one. As you're building your own slide, try and think as the new user. What would I want to know? Simple things. How do I log in? How do I log out? How do I change our credit card details? How do I get in contact with someone? Really simple FAQ questions, which may seem very easy to you, but you've got to remember, you've been using Thinkific now for a couple of months or even a couple of years. You know it inside out. A brand new user, not so much. I also want to add in line here about live chat. I get a lot of questions. Should I use live chat? Likes of Intercom, Talk.to. Live chat does it a place, but I'd recommend if you haven't scaled up or if you're not sitting at your computer day to day or maybe teaching live, it's not a great idea and you can very quickly get swamped. Live chat tends to attract individuals who need support very quickly and on demand. And if you can't get back within 5 or 10 minutes, you'll very quickly frustrate users. So I recommend contact forms, which we're going to implement here over live chat. Okay, so in terms of the Contact Us follow-up, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to Typeform. Typeform is a form building piece of software. It's available for free. What we're going to do is create the type form. That's what the user is going to use to contact us. We're then going to use Zapier to put them into MailChimp, and then MailChimp is going to send them a follow-up email for us. So let's go ahead and create a type form. I also recommend using the templates within Typeform and also MailChimp offers them as well. They're really beautiful and make it very quick to build out what you're looking for. So let's look for a contact us form. This one looks pretty good to me. And we'll go ahead and use this template. One thing I always advocate when you're creating anything in either Zapier, MailChimp, etc., and it asks you to give it a name, give it the most verbose name you possibly can. So it's very easy when you're looking at a list of zaps or a list of tags, you kind of just know what it is. This is a contact form for Thinkific, and we're going to just tell it what it is. It's going to be a contact form and say continue. So Typeform is very point and click, and what we have here is probably pretty good. So for example, it's asking why they're reaching out, and we can alter these, like to know more about you, have some feedback, looking for advice, just to chat, etc. They can then give us some information about it, what they're looking to do. I like to make certain forms required. So for example, I always like to ask someone to give me as much information about them as possible. The more information you get from the user from the start, the better, because you'll be able to quickly answer their query on the other side. I'm also going to need to get their name. Now within Thinkific and with MailChimp, you'll need to get the first and second name separately. Otherwise, you need to have a more complex app. So the first thing I'm going to do here is actually duplicate this. And we'll change this to first name. And sorry, this will be the first name. And then this one will be the last name. And we'll also remove that. So it's now what's your last name? And finally, we need to get an email address. And once again, just make sure these are required fields. So let's just walk through very quickly how this would look. The user is going to be asked what they're looking for. They're going to give us a description of what that question is. We're going to get the first name, the last name, and then we'll get the email address. Let's go ahead and publish that type form. Okay, so now the type form is set up. Once again, we're going to embed this in Thinkific. So it's really easy for the user to use. I'm going to use the inline. So that means it's going to appear inside the site. Looks pretty good for me. Let's go ahead and get the code and copy the code. Once again, going back to Thinkific, I'm just going to disregard those changes because I'll come back and change them later. We're going to look at site pages. One thing I would like to draw your attention to, Sorry, just noticed question, is Typeform free? Yes, Typeform is free up to a limit of responses. I'd recommend checking out Typeform/pricing. It kind of breaks it down based on how you're scaling. So on the site pages here, I just want to point out the site app recommendations. These appear in a number of places in Thinkific, both on site pages and in the course builder itself. Again, check out those 80 plus apps on the App Store. There's some phenomenal things. Stuff that used to take us days and weeks to implement is now available at the click of a button. So be sure to check out what the Thinkific team here are curating. First thing I would do is create a custom page, and it's going to be the Contact Us page. Always harder to type when you're on a webinar. Here we are. Perfect. And do the same for the next. Let's go ahead and create the page. So this can be a custom Contact Us page. And once again, we'll edit it. And we're going to copy and paste in the code, very similar to how we did with MailChimp. Let's go ahead and add a section. Text and media. We'll go ahead and edit that. Look at the code view, copy and paste in our Typeform code. And once again, I'm going to change the headings. So this is going to be Contact Us. Something I always like to add when I'm doing a Contact Us page is to set an expectation of your response time. So say, for example, you're a part-time course creator, maybe it's going to take you a couple of business days to get back. Make sure you include that. If you only work certain hours or even the time zone you're in, all my contact forms mention that I'm in EST. It just helps individuals who may be working in sort of Asia Pacific that it's going to be maybe 12 to 24 hours before you get back. So we respond within 1 business day. And that's looking good to me. Go ahead and click save. The Contact Us page is also a great place to put in your FAQ section. So below that or above your Contact Us page, I always like to put it above the Contact Us page because it means the user has to scroll past your FAQs where they might actually find out the answer. So now we have our Contact Us page set up. What we're now going to do is to add that user into a particular audience within MailChimp using what is called Zapier. So I'm going to open up Zapier here and we're going to start building out a Zap. Zaps are if else when something happens. So for example, when a user fills out the type form, we're going to tag them into MailChimp. So let's go ahead and create a new Zap. And the trigger for the Zap, so the thing that starts it, is going to be Typeform. So once again, we'll search for Typeform. And it's going to be a new entry, so that's the event that kicks it off. We'll say continue. And I've pre-connected my account before I started this. I'm gonna look for our form. This is another great example of when you should really name your form. So for example, I know exactly what I'm looking for in Zapier because I know this is the Contact Us form. I'll go ahead and test that trigger, just to make sure we're getting data in. So what Typeform will do is it'll fill in some example data that we can use in the next action, and that action is going to be from MailChimp. So the first event we're going to do is going to add or update a subscriber. Remember, this could be a brand new subscriber for us, or it could be a brand new user, so they may not be in our MailChimp audience. So we need to make sure we add them in. Once again, I'll choose my MailChimp account. I'm going to choose my audience, and it's going to be the Woo Ninja audience. Audiences are just contact lists in MailChimp. I recommend just only using one when you're starting out. If you have multiple audiences, things can get a little bit complicated. We'll then just insert their email address. So this is everything that comes in from Typeform itself. So we will look for what is their email address. So that would be this one here. Double opt-in. I recommend using double opt-in. So a question I often get is about GDPR data consent. Within Canada and the EU, you are required to ask for opt-in if you plan on marketing to these users. If you're only going to be using your contact form strictly for getting back to them, you don't need to do this. But if you are planning on marketing, it's a good idea to have a double opt-in. Double opt-in also makes sure you're dealing with a real person and not a bot or something. So it's always a good idea to use it. We're going to tag this user by Contact Us. And then finally, we're going to make sure we insert their first and last name. So this is where the double fields I've made are coming to us. With it by default, Typeform will only get the full name, and therefore you won't be able to use it. So we need to use both. And there we go. Say continue, and we'll skip the test. So just to reiterate what's happening here, the user is going to come on to our Thinkific site. They're going to fill out our contact us form. Zapier is then going to take over. It's going to place them into our MailChimp system. On a MailChimp, what we're going to do is we are going to set up what's called an automation. What that's going to do is going to be monitoring our contact list. And when this tag gets applied, so when the contact us tag gets applied, we're going to send them an email immediately, which is going to be the FAQ email. I always recommend using an FAQ email, even if that's the top 10 questions you get, or just a direction to the FAQ page on your website. It's a really helpful way to reduce your support time. I would say 50 to 60% of the contacts I get are answered by those FAQs, and therefore reduces my support queue greatly. So to do that, let's go ahead and create the journey. And it's going to be the contact us journey. We'll start building. MailChimp has a wonderful way of building out journeys, very similar to Zapier. We choose a starting point. It's going to be when a tag is added. That tag is going to be when they contact us. We'll save. We'll add a journey point. That's going to be to send your email, and that particular email is going to be your FAQ email. What I like to do here now myself is I like to add in a time delay. So for example, I'm going to wait 3 days, and then I'm going to do what's called an if else. So I will do an if else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this based on their tag. And this will be explained by the next funnel. If the user is tagged as fully enrolled, what that means is if the user actually bought my course, we don't want to send them an email. We also want to do this. We also want to do another tag if they are signed up, our new user. And again, I'll explain this in a later funnel. So this might make sense now, but I will come back to it. What this will do is it'll stop a user who's already enrolled in our particular course from getting the next email. And what that email is going to be is a follow-up. So I like to always send another email on the off chance they haven't actually bought a course, just checking in. Did I get back to them? It's kind of like watching your back. So for example, someone sends your contact email, you see it, the phone rings, you go to do some groceries, and you come back and you forget to respond to them. It's just a nice way to follow up and say, were you satisfied with the results? Is there anything more I can do for you? And it works really, really, really well. So that is the contact us follow-up form. I'm just going to take a brief look at the chat. Slow down, absolutely will do. Does opt out and put people some off from subscribing, signing in. Opt-in is a requirement. It is a legal requirement. So within the EU, within Canada, you are required to ask for consent, but it's only if you're marketing to them. If you're only sending a transactional email, so a transactional email is one whereby you're just answering a support question. They don't need to give you your consent. But if you do plan on marketing to them, sending them marketing information, then you absolutely do need to get it. And most people will happily opt in, and then they will just unsubscribe or delete the data if they need to.